The anime starts with Eris and Rudeus relaxing on the beach. Eris is eager to take a bath in the water, but Rudeus warns her that the sea is full of monsters. Meanwhile, a sailor arrives and informs them that he has heard a lot about their group and that he will charge 2,000 Greek war coins as a fare from Demon to Milia continent solely because of Rudeus. The Dead End group meets at dinner time to discuss the money problem, but no one has a solution. Rudeus, again, meets the human god in his old life form. Human god advises him to buy food from a street vendor and take a walk through back alleys to get his next surprise. Eris and Rudeus practice swordplay. Eris successfully hits Rudeus while he is distracted. Rudeus follows human god's advice, and while walking down the street, he encounters someone who is wailing that he will die of starvation. Rudeus gives food to that person, and after eating it, that figure reveals itself to be Kishirika Kishirasu, a red-haired demon girl. She tells Rudeus that she can grant him one wish, and he wishes for money, half of the world, and to lose his virginity, but she cannot do anything about them. She then grants him one of her demon eyes. Rudeus is given the Eye of Foresight, which allows him to see the future for no more than 2 seconds. Rudeus then comes across a man and rescues him from a tumbling pot. Rudeus tells Rudeus that Kishirika is a demon lord who has been resurrected. Rudeus is now used to his demon eye, and he defeats Eris with its help. Rudeus appreciates Rudeus for his fight. Rudeus comes out late at night to sell the staff Eris gave him, but Rudeus stops him. He claims they are attempting to cross the sea without paying. They are talking when the same man, Gallus Cleaner, whom Rudeus saved, comes there to thank Rudeus. Roxy, Tollhand, and Inalise are searching for Paul's family. Some people offer Roxy the opportunity to join their group, but she declines because she is already a member of her own. Roxy and Inalise talk about the Dead End group, and Roxy tells her that it is a devil's name, while Tollhand tells her that Dead End is a 3-person party. Roxy then asks if they have any information about Paul and his family, to which they respond negatively. Roxy remembers Rudeus after seeing some children playing on the beach, while she sees Eris and Rudeus practicing swordplay. Roxy guesses from their appearance that they are from the Dead End group, but she does not see the third person in the group. Roxy is terrified when she realizes they are supered and flees. She discovers Inalise with 6 men in the house and throws them all outside. Roxy and the other 2 members leave town after discovering no information about Paul. Inalise urges Roxy to join in her activities, but she refuses. Gallus helps Rudeus transport him to the other side of the sea, and Eris enjoys a voyage with Rudeus. Rudeus imagines a romantic relationship with Eris on the island. They reach the next city, and Eris is tired of long travel. Rudeus goes to bring Rudeus. He reaches a cottage in the forest and goes down into the basement, which is a hideout for smugglers. When he is there, Rudeus tells him that they're keeping beastkin children hostage to sell. Rudeus asks Rudeus to save them. Rudeus kills the guard, and Rudeus heals all the children. Then they bring them out, and one of the children asks Rudeus to save the dog that is held captive with them. Rudeus goes to save the dog while a beastkin attacks him. They think Rudeus was holding the children captive. They paralyze Rudeus by casting a magic spell on him and take him to another place. Rudeus is living in prison, and he narrates the construction of his cell and his daily routine. He is always naked, and a woman comes every day to feed him and douse him in freezing cold water. He is unaware of Eris and Rudeus' existence, and one day, a gambler named Geese joins Rudeus in his prison cage. One night, Geese is giving a massage to Rudeus' body when Rudeus asks Geese to run, but he refuses. They are both talking about it when they see the forest on fire. Rudeus uses magic to create a key from a stone, and they both flee. As they run away, they learn that Gallus Cleaner and his men set the fire by returning to the scene to capture more beastskin for sale. He says that strange nobility enjoy buying them, and Rudeus wonders if Philip has done this. Geese tells him that this is his best chance to flee, but Rudeus decides to fight Gallus because he cannot stand by and watch as women and men are killed and children are kidnapped. Rudeus casts his magic of water to put out the fire. Meanwhile, some men attack Rudeus, but he is saved by another mage who offers to assist him in saving the children. Rudeus attacks them and saves the children, while Gallus Cleaner appears and takes a child hostage. The dog monster then attacks him, and the child is saved. Rudeus suffers a cut in his leg and passes out before defeating Gallus. When Rudeus opens his eyes, he finds Eris and the village chief near him. The village chief apologizes to Rudeus for the misunderstanding and thanks him for saving their children. When they return, Eris promises that she will be overjoyed to tell her grandfather, who adores beastskin, all about their experience. Darius, the servant of Eris's grandfather, or more accurately, his traitor, has now seized power. Before being executed, he says a final prayer in which he wishes Eris happiness. Eris and 2 other beastkins are taking a bath in the rain, while Rudeus is watching them secretly when a tribe warrior catches him and warns him not to lay a finger on his daughter. At night, Rudeus and Eris are eating with the tribe chief and guys. Eris teaches language to Minotona and Tersina, Eris's finger has Ghislaine's ring on it, and Gys notices it. That means this tribe belongs to Ghislaine. Gys, on the other hand, is dissatisfied with Ghislaine. Ghislaine was apparently quite violent and unruly as a child, not to mention a terrible swordsman. Ghislaine was abducted by a wanderer one day. Gys regards her as a traitor who abandoned the tribe's responsibilities. Ghislaine is defended by Eris, who describes her as a noble swordsman and her master. She gets emotional and starts weeping, and Rudeus calms her down. Gys appears to be regretting his statements. Tona and Tersina approach Eris the next morning and inquire about Aunt Ghislaine. Ghislaine appears to be Gys' younger sister. Tona decides she wants Eris to teach her swordsmanship while they chat, and Eris agrees. She then teaches Tona and Tersina swordplay, and Gys is taken aback by Eris' sword skills. Rudeus tells him that Ghislaine is a student of magic, but Gys does not believe him. Tona has learned a lot in just 3 months, and after the rainy season, the Dead End group will move forward to the next town. Tona and Eris quarrel as Tona suggests Eris just stay in the village, and Eris refuses. Gys tries to console Tona, but he realizes he made a mistake with Ghislaine. He claims that when he and Ghislaine parted ways, they were on bad terms. He begs Tona not to make the same mistake, as Eris and Rudy are departing the next morning. Tona approaches Eris that night and says sorry, and she is forgiven. Tona and Tersina give Eris wooden dolls that resemble her and Rudy. The next morning, the Dead End group leaves the village, and Gys also accompany them. Gys and the Dead End group arrive in Milis, where Gys bids him farewell and promises to see him again soon. That night, they travel to an inn, where Rudeus displays a miniature earth sculpture of a Rudeus. He believes that every time they help someone, they should give them a small sculpture that would gradually build up the spurred name, alongside Rudeus Zane, in particular, Dead Ends. They will take a free day the following day to get a feel for the city. Eris intends to go goblin hunting. Rudeus notices something and believes it to be another kidnapping. He breaks into their bunker and finds a pair of women's pants. In an attempt to conceal his identity, he wears them on his head while fighting. Rudeus recognizes the leader as Paul after defeating him and causing him to collapse. Rudeus tells Paul about his pleasure with Eris and Rudeus over the previous year and a half. Paul becomes enraged with Rudeus, and the two have a furious argument. Paul becomes enraged with Rudeus when he claims that he left notes for him at an adventurer's guild, but that Rudeus didn't see them. He was instead having fun with Eris and Rudeus. Rudeus begins to beat up Paul when Norn, who can now walk and talk, intervenes and requests Rudeus not to bully her father. Rudeus interrogates Paul about his apparent kidnappings, and Paul reveals that many people were subjected to slavery after being sent to continents where they knew no one and could not speak their native language. After a year, Paul informs Rudeus that Aisha, Lilia, and Zenith are still missing. Rudeus is distraught when he returns home. After all, Paul has a lot of valid arguments. Eris consoles him after he vomits. Paul comes into consciousness after the Mana Cataclysm. He's carrying Norn, which is probably why they're in the same place. He is very perplexed and can see nothing except green plains around him. He chooses a path and begins walking. When Gys comes in, Paul is busy drinking in a tavern. Gys inquires about his concern and listens to Paul's problems, but he does not reveal that Rudeus saved him from the beast game. Gys, in fact, does not admit that he knows Rudeus at all. He informs Paul that he has unrealistic hopes for Rudeus because it would have been nearly impossible for anyone, even a Speared, to travel through the Demon Continent. Gys makes Paul realize that he has made a mistake by getting angry at Rudeus. That night, he thinks about Rudeus and decides to make up with him the next day. He runs across Rudeus in a bar with Rudeus and Eris. Eris becomes emotional when she sees him, but Rudeus stops her. They leave to give Paul and Rudeus some alone time. Rudeus doesn't look Paul in the eyes until the bartender tells him to, and he notices how hard and hurt Paul appears during his apology. Rudeus remembers an incident from his previous life in which he beat his friend, but later realized that he was at fault. Rudeus forgives Paul and tells him he was right, hugging him tightly and acting like their argument from yesterday never happened. Rudeus tells his father that he misses him a lot. Paul sobs uncontrollably and clutches Rudeus tightly. Paul and Rudeus are talking when Eris comes inside, and there is a bruise on her eyes given by Rudeus, and Rudeus heals her eyes. Rudeus informs Eris and Rudeus that Paul provided him with money and a letter of introduction in order for him to travel to the Central Continent. He reveals that Eris's father and grandfather are still missing, and that their homeland does not exist. Rudeus, Eris, and Rudeus leave for the Central Continent the next day. Rudeus, Eris, and Rudeus are leaving Milis and encounter many people along the way. Then they board a boat, and the waves are extremely choppy, and Eris becomes ill once more. But Rudeus also feels extremely ill. Rudeus is in good condition. Rudeus tells Rudeus that the land across the sea is a major rice producer. Roxy meets Nokopera, the same guy who tried to extort Dead End. we learn that Roxy and Nokopara were actually at a party together a long time ago and are the only two who are still alive. Nokopara asks Roxy if she has seen her parents, to which she responds that she has not. Nokopara becomes irritated with her and claims that since they stopped adventuring together, he has settled down with a wife and children and has even been on his best behavior since being burned by Dead End. He advises her that she should go meet her parents because she's insane if she thinks they are unwilling to see her. Roxy returns to her city, and we learn something important about her. The Magurdia tribe can all utilize telepathy, but Roxy cannot. She observes flashes of light and hears clicking noises, but has no idea what they signify. Her hometown only brings up sad memories of being an outcast because she lacked this talent. She visits her parents, who are stunned and shocked to see her but overjoyed regardless. Her father refrains from hugging her. Roxy's mother tells her she can remain as long as she wants, but Roxy says she needs to get going. Her mother starts crying. Roxy sits in silence for a bit before realizing how difficult it must have been for her parents when Roxy fled her town without informing them. Roxy's mother stated that she didn't know if she would ever see Roxy again. Roxy starts weeping and hugs her mother. She stays the night with her parents. The next morning, she speaks with her parents, who inform her about Rudeus's visit 2 years ago. Roxy is resolved to tour the rest of the demon continent in quest of Lilia, Zenith, and Aisha now that she knows Rudeus is safe. She also notices Ainali sleeping with other individuals again. Rudeus has another dream about his past life, in which human god uses his demon eye to show him a vision of Aisha being apprehended by several guards and assures him that he will see Aisha soon, but he cannot reveal Aisha's true identity. He then has to write a letter. He will release her and Lilia by doing so. Rudeus awakens, and he, Eris, and Regerd board a boat and travel to a city. Rudeus informs them that he has information that Lilia and Aisha are being detained somewhere, but he does not reveal where he obtained that information. He writes Roxy a letter, assuming she continues to work at the palace. Rudeus notices Aisha being teased by some guards, and this time he recognizes them as palace guards. They're stealing a letter from Aisha, so she rushes to Rudeus and asks for his assistance. He inquires about the letter, and Aisha says that she and her mother are being kept captive in the palace, and she was attempting to send a message to her father to request assistance. Rudeus asks if there's anyone else she could turn to for assistance, but Aisha says no, and that she discovered a pair of undergarments for women that Lilia claims he adores. She concluded that her older brother was a total pervert and that she would not want to contact him. Rudeus keeps using a fictitious name for Aisha. The next morning, a guard approaches Rudeus and asks if he can go with her to the castle since Roxy called for him. Rudeus becomes very eager and dresses up before departing with the guard. However, when he comes, he is taken to the place where Lilia is imprisoned. Pax, the child Roxy was tutoring, demands that Rudeus be locked up. He's been placed on top of a seal that prevents him from casting magic, so he can't escape. Pax explains that he'll use Rudeus and Leah as hooks to entice Roxy and defile her. The mana disaster surrounds Rudeus and Eris before spreading out and approaching at breakneck speed. Lilia clutches Aisha, causing them to be teleported together. When they awaken, they are in some kind of water. Lilia drags Aisha to the surface and transports her to the neighboring city, where she asks a guard if Roxy Magurdia is present at the palace. Pax overhears and casts them into the dungeon. Rudeus describes the environment as if it were an apartment, as he did in the Beastkin arc. He tries to utilize his powers some more, but it is ineffective. Just then, the third prince reaches the dungeon and asks Rudeus where he acquired his statue of Regerd, which was discovered in his suitcase and taken before he was imprisoned. After some discussion, the third prince drags out the Roxy figurine that Rudeus made decades ago, and they have a lengthy discussion about it. Because they're both pervs, the prince is a major fan of Rudeus's work. Meanwhile, several of the guards are leading Rudeus, Aisha, and Eris into the palace. Although they are not locked up, the guards implore them to assist in the rescue of their own families. Pax appears to have kidnapped their families as well. Regerd instructs Eris to keep an eye on Aisha while he goes to release the family. Third Prince Zenoba is reported to have pulled one of his siblings' heads off as a child. He takes Pax and takes him out of bed, dragging him to Rudeus's dungeon cell, where he asks Rudeus to be released. Pax ponders but eventually agrees. Rudeus is reunited with Lilia, who is relieved to see him safe. She also hands over the box with Roxy's undergarments to him. Aisha approaches Rudeus and asks if she might join him on his escapades, claiming that she is terrified of her wicked older brother and does not want to help him. Inside the package is also a necklace that Sylphie had intended to gift to Rudeus for his 10th birthday. Leela and Aisha depart as they all say goodbye. Boarding to Rudeus is unexpected, and sometimes things suddenly take place. Eris, Regerd, and Rudeus are about to climb a snowy mountain. Before they start, Eris and Regerd fight and Regerd declares Eris to be a noble warrior. They start climbing the mountain, and an angry-looking man walks with a woman in a mask. Eris and Regerd instantly freeze and gaze in terror. Rudeus, on the other hand, is unaffected by this and consequently does not tighten up in the same way they do. Rudeus instructs Rudeus not to move or make any noise. Their boar, which they've been traveling with, leaps from the cliff. Orsted turns to face the group, seeing Rudeus and Rudeus Greyrat. He, on the other hand, has never met Rudeus. Rudeus introduces himself, but Orsted does not believe him and says that Paul Greyrat should only have 2 daughters and no sons. As they're about to part ways, Orsted asks Rudeus if he knows the name Hidogami, to which Rudeus intuitively replies, yes, adding that he occasionally visits it in his nightmares. Orsted quickly attacks Rudeus, which Rudeus tries to block. Orsted knocks down Rudeus and stabs Rudeus in the chest, declaring him to be an apostle of Hidogami. Rudeus collapses and appears to die, reuniting with Hidogami as Eris screams and shouts, moving towards him. Rudeus speaks to Hidogami in an unusual manner, telling him that he is grateful that he was able to save Aisha and Lilia before dying. Overall, he regrets his life, but not so much that he throws a fit at Hidogami, like he did when he died the first time. Orsted is without a doubt the strongest of the 7. It's one of the curses in Orsted that made Eris and Rudeus freeze in horror when they saw it. Hidogami then informs Rudeus that he is not yet dead. Rudeus awakens in Eris's arms, where she informs him that Orsted has done a healing spell on him. Rudeus awakes from a nightmare and finds Eris sleeping beside him. Rudeus informs Rudeus about Hidogami's words concerning the spirit curse gradually disappearing. Rudeus looks away from Rudeus and starts weeping, most likely out of relief. Rudeus is seeing flashbacks to his time on the central continent. Rudeus ultimately departs from Dead End and part ways with Eris and Rudeus. Rudeus and Eris come across a camp of Central American survivors and encounter Ghislaine. Eris instantly embraces her and expresses her relief that they are safe. She points to a board with the names of those who are still missing, and Rudeus rushes to the board in search of Zenith and Sylphiette's names, but they're still missing and haven't been found dead anywhere. Eris reveals that her grandfather, Philip, and his wife, Hilda, all died. Philip and Hilda were transferred together and so died together, and they reveal that their grandfather was murdered, and that another man has ascended to the throne in his place. They reveal that if Eris is located, the new king will seek her hand in marriage, which Ghislaine strongly opposes. Eris enters Rudeus's room one night while he is sleeping and tempts him. They both sleep together. The next morning, Rudeus awakens overjoyed that he has lost his virginity, but his joy swiftly converts to shock when he finds a message from Eris stating that she is departing. Rudeus asks Alphone about Eris, and he reveals that she has gone on a journey with Ghislaine, but would not reveal the location. Rudeus weeps while thinking about why Eris has abandoned him. Eris wakes up, and she and Ghislaine carry on their journey. Rudeus has some horrible flashbacks of his bully past life. His parents tried their best to be supportive and get the bullies expelled, but he remained in his bedroom all the time. His mother would frequently leave him a note with his food, which he placed outside his bedroom door. Alphone urges Rudeus to get up and do some work, because they are running short of tents and other things. Rudeus asks him to leave him alone, and then he tells Rudeus about Eris. Eris tells Ghislaine how wonderful Rudeus is, and how he was always in control while they were traveling together. Rudeus saves 3 traveling men, and they are no longer afraid of him as a result. He has a little smile on his face, most likely because of Rudeus's assistance. Kishirika, Kishirisu, and one of Roxy's teammates, Talhand, are competing in a drinking game. Kishirika totally destroys him, despite being little and underweight. Before being pursued for the drinking money, Roxy Magurdia releases her and pays for all the drinks after she reveals she doesn't have any. In exchange, Kishirika employs her demon eye to discover whomever Roxy desires. Roxy utilizes Kishirika's ability to discover the whereabouts of Aisha and Lilia, whom she is glad to learn have been reunited, and Rudeus, whom she is worried to learn, is not doing well. Paul is happy to see Lilia and Aisha safe, but Zenith is still missing. When Kishirika is asked about Zenith, she confesses that she can't get a good look, but she can approximate the city she's in. That's sufficient, and Roxy eagerly informs her teammates. Rudeus has flashbacks of Zenith, in which he helped her clean the house while she took some rest. Rudeus thinks he should go out of his tent to locate her mother, Zenith. Rudeus left his childhood bedroom in his previous life, and the anime ends. So friends, how was the story? I hope you liked the recap. Please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel as proof that you have enjoyed it.